Do your solder joints look like this? What's up everyone, Lucas here with Race Prep Multirotor, and in this video I'm going to give you 5 tips to help you solder like a pro. Let's go! Tip number 1, use the right solder. This is so important. You want to use a solder that has a 60 to 40 tin to lead ratio, and also you want to use solder that has rosin core. This just means that it has flux already in the solder, and it's going to make your life a heck of a lot easier, especially when it comes to bigger wires. I like to use this Miniatronics brand. It's a 60-40 blend and it's size 030. Tip number 2, you gotta have the right tip for the job.
That's what she said.
The only 2 tips I've ever needed are this medium chisel tip and this large chisel tip. I use this one for most things. I use it for motor wires and smaller wires and stuff like that. And I use the big chisel tip for XT60 leads and battery wires. Tip number 3, and this one is very important as well, high heat and low time. So what that means is you want to crank your iron up to the max. 800 degrees is a good temperature. Higher is better if your iron can do it, but you want to crank your iron up to the max. You want to have it on the highest heat possible. You want to go in and out. The more time you stay on the pad, the more chances you have of damaging the pad. Tip number 4, pre-tin your surfaces. Whether you're soldering a wire to a pad or a wire to another wire, you want to pre-tin your surfaces. Tinning basically means you're coating your wire or your pad with solder before you join it to something else. Tip number 5, don't use too much solder and don't use too little solder. Either one of these can be a bad situation, and I'll show you examples of what both look like. You want to use just the right amount of solder. If you use too much, you're going to end up bridging 2 components, which can mean the smoke comes out. If you don't use enough solder, it's going to look really bad, and you can actually see the wire strands coming through if you don't use enough solder. All right, I want to go over these 5 tips really quickly as a summary while this plays in the background. So what I'm doing here is I'm soldering 20 gauge motor wire onto this PCB, and you can see the PCB has the pads already pre-tinned that I want to solder to. The motor wires are pre-tinned as well. I'm using 60-40 tin to lead rosin core solder from Miniatronics. The tip that I'm using here is a medium chisel tip. The temperature on my iron is turned all the way up to the max. High heat and low time is the key really here. So high heat, low time, you can see I'm going in probably 1 or 2 seconds at most on each of these. You don't want to spend any more time on them than that. If you're spending more time than 1 or 2 seconds on each solder joint like this, it means you need to turn the heat up on your iron. So once again, this is a medium chisel tip. It's 20 gauge wire. The pad and the wire is pre-tinned. I'm adding a little solder to the tip of the iron, and I'm going in for each solder joint. So next, I want to show you how to solder an XT60 pigtail with much bigger wire. XT60 and battery wires follow all the same principles we just talked about. What you can see here is I'm pre-tinning the pads. I'm going to be soldering these battery wires too. And the main difference here is that I'm using a very big chisel tip. So this is much bigger than the tip I used for the 20 gauge wire. We're going to be using 12 gauge wire here in this example. I'm pre-tinning the pads on the PCB here, and then I will pre-tin the 12 gauge wires as well. Now this 12 gauge wire takes quite a bit of time to pre-tin. You see it's taking up quite a bit of solder, and then I'll have to flip the wire over. The underside hasn't even been tinned yet. So with these 12 gauge battery wires and XT60s, you want to make sure you get the entire wire coated with solder while you're tinning. And then I'm going to go in and do the positive side as well. And if you look closely, you can see me rotating the wire while I'm tinning it, and that's to get the solder more evenly distributed. So now we have both the positive and negative wires tinned. Again, this is 12 gauge wire. It's going to take a very big tip, a lot of heat, and you want to make sure you coat the wires with solder absolutely fully before you go in and try to make the joint. So now we have our wires and our pads tinned. I'm going to go in and put a little bit of extra solder on the iron, and then now we can join the wire to the pad. And this is going to take quite a bit more time than the 20 gauge wire did. It takes about 4 to 5 seconds, but that's essentially what you want to see right there with your 12 gauge XT60 and battery wire when you're all done soldering. So just to recap, use a very, very big chisel tip for XT60 and 12 gauge battery wire. You want to make sure everything is tinned properly with plenty of solder. You want to be using good quality solder, 6040 rosin core. And that should be everything there is to it. That's all I got for this one. If you learned something from this video, let me know in the comment section down below. My name is Lucas with Race Prep Multirotor. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.